Good evening and welcome to my three-part series on the first sex. But in the beginning, we were all created female. Sounds unusual? My name is Tamara Von Forslun, and I am the matriarch of the clan of Boskedna. In the beginning was a very female sea. For 2.5 billion years on Earth, all life forms floated in the womb-like environment of the planetary ocean, nourished and protected by its embryonic chemical fluids, and rocked by the lunar tidal rhythms. Charles Darwin believed that the menstrual cycle originated here, organically echoing the moon pulse dance of the sea. And because the longest period of life's time of Earth was dominated by marine forms reproducing parthenogenically, life did not gestate within the body of any creature, but within the ocean womb containing all organic life. There were no specialized sex organs. Rather, a generalized female existence reproduced itself within the female body of the great sea womb. Before more complex life forms could develop and move onto the land, it was necessary to miniaturize the organic movement and the environment to reproduce it on a small and mobile scale. Soft, moist eggs deposited on dry ground and exposed to the air would die. Life could not move forward beyond the water-hugging amphibian stage. And in the course of evolution, through the magic of the goddess, the ocean, the protective and nourishing space, the amniotic fluids, even the lunar tidal rhythm was transferred into the individual female body. And the penis, created from the evolutionary dance of an evolved clitoris, and became a mechanical device for land reproduction, evolved. The penis first appeared in the age of reptiles about 200 million years ago. And our archetypal association of the snake with a phallus contains, no doubt, this genetic primordial memory. This is a fundamental and recurring pattern in nature. Life is a female environment in which the male appears, often periodically and created by the female to perform highly specialized tasks related to the species' reproduction and a more complex evolution. Daphnia, a water or freshwater crustacean, reproduces several generations of females by parthenogenesis. The egg and its own polar body mate to form a complete set of genes for a female offspring. Once annually, at the end of the year's cycle, a short-lived male group is produced. This makes it specialized in manufacturing leathery cases able to survive the winter. And among honeybees, the drone group is produced and regulated by sterile daughter workers and the fertile queen. Drones exist to mate with the queen. An average of 7 drones per hive accomplish this act each season. And then the entire male group is destroyed by the workers. Among whiptail lizards in the American Southwest, 4 species are parthenogenic. Males are unknown among the desert grassland, plateaus, and Chihuahua whiptails, and have been found only rarely amongst the checkered whiptails. Among mammals, even among humans, parthenogenesis is not technically impossible. Every female egg contains a polar body with a complete set of chromosomes. The polar body within the egg, if united, could form a daughter embryo. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. So in fact, ovarian cysts are unfertilized eggs that have joined with their polar bodies, being implanted in the ovarian wall and started to develop there. Now, this is not to say that males are an unnecessary sex. Parthenogenesis is a cloning process, sexual reproduction which enhances the variety and health of the gene pool is necessary for the kind of complex evolution that produced the human species. The point being made here is simply that when it comes to the two sexes, one of us has been around a lot longer than the other. Female group behavior, cooperative, hair sharing amongst mothers and children, older and younger women, and in the tasks of daily life, emerges from the fact of this prolonged dependence of the human child on the human female for its survival. Males help, but they also leave. The male body comes and goes, but the female presence is constant. Females train, discipline, and protect the young beyond infant care. The maintenance and leadership of the entire kin group is the task of the women. The female animal is always on alert. For her rests the responsibility not only of feeding the young, but of keeping the young from being food for others. She is the giver and also the sustainer of beginning life. Among humans, males help with protection and food acquisition, but it is the communal group of females that surrounds the child in its first 4 to 6 years of life with a strong physical, emotional, traditional, and linguistic presence. And this is the foundation of social life and human culture. The popular image of early human society has been dominated, indeed created by sexist male hunters and ferocious territorial headbangers, just does not hold water. If the first humans had depended solely on despotic and aggressive male leaders, or on several males in chronic ritualistic contention for power, human society would never have developed. Human culture could never have been invented, and the human presence of Earth would never have evolved. The fact is that it was from this first inner circle of women, this campsite, the fireside, the cave, the first hearth, the first circle of birth, that human society evolved. As hominids evolved into Paleolithic Homo sapiens, then into settled and complex Neolithic village people on the time edge of civilization. These tens of thousands of years of human culture and evolution were shaped and sustained by communities of creative, sexually, and psychically active women. Women who were inventors, producers, scientists, physicians, lawgivers, visionary shamans, artists. Women who were also the mothers, receivers, and transmitters of terrestrial cosmic energy. We have to understand how and why these ancient millennia of women cultures have been buried, ignored, denied, and passed off as mythology or primitive prehistoric origins by Western male historians who insist and often really believe that real history began only about 5,000 years ago and the relatively recent institutions of patriarchy. The revolution of human sexuality and the revolution that made us human resulted from evolutionary changes that occurred in the female body. These changes were not primarily related to mammalian reproduction, but to human sexual relationship. No one actually knows the order in which they occurred, but taken together as an evolved cluster of sexual characteristics that constitute a truly radical sexual metamorphosis undergone by the human female. Elimination of the estrous cycle and development of the menstrual cycle meant that women were not periodically in heat, but capable of sexual activity at any time. Pregnancy could occur during the part of the cycle, but for most of the cycle, sex could happen without necessarily resulting in pregnancy. Among all other animals, the estrous cycle determines that copulation always results in pregnancy and has no idea than a reproductive purpose. Development of the clitoris and evolution of the vagina meant a greatly enhanced sexuality and orgasmic potential in human females compared to all other animals. So the change from rear to frontal sex, we can imagine, created an enormous change in relations between sexes. Frontal sex means a prolonged and enhanced lovemaking period and what might be called the personalization of sex. The emotion-evoking role of face-to-face intercourse in the development of human self-consciousness has yet to be evaluated. She turned around and looked at him in the eye, and there was light. Development of breasts added to women's potential for sexual arousal. Further, combined with frontal sex, no doubt the female's maternal and social feelings were also now aroused by the personal lover, whose body was now analogous to the infant's body at her breast. As Thompson points out, such radical changes in the female body alone were enough to trigger the hominization of the species. Human beings with these changes became the only creatures on Earth for whom copulation can occur anytime for the non-productive purposes. Human sex thus became a multi-purpose activity. It can happen for emotional bonding, for social bonding, for pleasure, for communication, for shelter and comfort, for personal release, or for escape, as well as for the reproduction of the species. And this is one of the original and major determining differences between humans and all other animals, birds, reptiles, insects, fish, worms, for whom copulation exists only and solely for species reproduction. The human race has been definitely shaped by the evolution and revolution of the female body into a capacity for non-reproductive sex. This is not just a physical fact. It is a cultural, religious, and politically fact of primary significance. Many feminists of today are unsure whether studies of evolutionary biology or of religious mythology can have political relevance for contemporary women. We believe that nothing could be more politically relevant than knowing why we got where we are now, by seeing how we got here and where we began. In the beginning, the first environment for all new life was female. The physical, emotional, spiritual body of the Earth Mother and the communal body of women. Young girls growing together and grown women and older women all working together. When hunting and gathering people move, the infant is carried bound close to the mother's body, and when they settle, the women form an inner circle campsite of women and children. The socialization process begins here. So human culture is marked by strengthening and prolongation of the relation between mothers and offspring. And for its first year, the human child is virtually an embryo outside of the womb, extremely vulnerable and totally dependent. Even among feminists in recent years, there has arisen doubt these images and symbols might be anything else but mythology or unrealities. To approach our human past and the divine feminine female goddess, we need a wagon with at least two wheels. One is the mythical, historical, and archaeological, and the other is the biological, anthropological. A strong track has already been laid down for the mythical, historical, archaeological wheel. Milestones along the track, and along with J. or G. Rachel Levy's great work, are J.J. Bachofan's Myth, Religion, and Mother Right. There are so many books that can give you out there. Even my latest book, The Encyclopedia of the Divine Feminine, Goddess of 10,000 Names, and many more. The other side of our wagon, the biological, anthropological side, has almost no wheel and no track. Not because there is no important place to go in that direction, but because the physical, cultural anthropologists are off somewhere else, busily mapping the evolution of Tarzan. There is no body of anthropologists' work based on the evolution of female biology. With rare exceptions, there have been no attempts whatsoever to study the evolution of human physiology and cultural organization, from pre-hominid to modern man, from the perspective of the definitive changes undergone by the female in the process of that evolution. Popular books on the subject by Lionel Tiger, Desmond Morris, et al. Are inevitably male-oriented, treating the evolution of the female sex as sex objects only. From monkey in heat to hot bunny of today. One delightful exception is Elaine Morgan's The Descent of Woman. During 12 million years of dry Pliocene, Morgan speculates the female prenominal took to the oceans, surviving in the warm and food-filled coastal waters, and during this experience underwent a sea change from knuckle-walking rear sex primate to upright human sexual body, to which the male primate responded by becoming man. Morgan argues convincingly that the human species survived the long Pliocene drought through the cooperation and social invention of the evolving hominid females in their adaptation of the sea. Academic experts ignore this theory, but they have no other explanation for our Pliocene survival, or our successful evolution from ape to human during this difficult period, or for the many ways in which our human man bodies of sea animals rather than primates. We're going to stop there and we'll continue on a little bit more in depth in our next part 2 of The First Sex. I hope you've enjoyed today. Take care. We'll see you at the next time. Best of